What's up, fight fans? This is Kurt DeVille with Counterpunch Boxing News, and I got some new news concerning Tyson, the Gypsy King Fury. I just recently watched the Tyson Fury on Joe Rogan and on Joe Rogan's Experience podcast, which he does have some interesting characters, and Tyson Fury, of course, is no exception. He broke down a lot in this podcast. That's why I like about the Joe Rogan's podcast. And it's good to travel. You know what I mean? If you're driving somewhere, it's good to look at. But Tyson Fury really just broke down, everything, starting with his life, the Vladimir Klitschko fight, where he became the undisputed champion of the world, got all those belts, how he lost those belts. And it was pretty much a nice synopsis, you know what I mean? A detailed synopsis of his life from that point to now, and he said some pretty interesting things, man, and I gotta talk to you guys about it. So this is the official Joe Rogan Tyson Fury interview recap of this segment. He first talked about his mental illness, and he was also on the Breakfast Club. He mentioned his mental illness, so he's really trying to get that out because there are a lot of athletes, famous people that deal with mental illness, and it's kind of like the silent killer. A lot of people call it stress, but this is more like stress with a twist because mental illness you can't do anything about. You have soldiers or committing suicide. Think about Junior Seau. Guys like that have that wasn't as successful and doesn't have this story and had tragic endings, unlike Tyson Fury. You know what I mean? He was able to bounce back. So his biggest battle was mental illness. So I am glad that he was getting that out there and brave enough to explain that to everybody. So that's big, to come back like he is, or like he did rather, lost all that weight. The Vladimir Klitschko, fight, he talked about that. He talked about how he focused and set his mind to beat Vladimir even when he was in the amateurs, and he said Emmanuel Stewart, rest in peace, Emmanuel Stewart, told Vladimir that, this guy will grow up to beat you one day. And you know what? It did happen. It's just so strong how you speak things into existence because that actually happened. Now, he talked about Klitschko and what type of fighter he was, and he was a boring fighter. I hated Klitschko's style, and I was more impressed at Klitschko in his last fight simply because it was a fight like Tyson Fury explained. It was more like 50-50 because they went head to head. When Tyson Fury, I like how he compared it. He was more like 80-20 because Klitschko was confused because of the style and he wasn't able to hit Fury. You know what I mean? So that was a good analogy. You know what I mean? That's why everybody called that fight boring. But if you look at Klitschko, a lot of his fights were boring. Every time he fought in America, it was a boring fight. Vladimir Klitschko, the last time he fought in America, he fought, what's his name? Not Smith. He was knocked out by Ortiz. I'll think of his name, but he fought in New York and he was pretty much, they booed that card. You know what I mean? And, but he was, so that proved, no one really liked him in America. And, him and his brother had the heavyweight title for so long, dude. You know what I mean? So, it is what it is. However, moving on, he just confused Vladimir Klitschko, outboxed him. And I like Tyson Fury, man. I really do because, it's just it was no stuttering. It was no, you know what I'm saying? Like no hesitancy, he wasn't apprehensive to speak or to talk, and that means a lot when you ask people certain questions. You know what I'm saying? So, he was real truthful and clear about the Vladimir Klitschko fight. about everything, really, about the negotiations. He said that, surprisingly, Frank Warren and Finkel, these guys were one of the easiest group of people to work with getting a fight done. And I thought that was surprising too, and that's worth mentioning. And he also mentioned Anthony Joshua, and he had insight on the deal that they were proposing, that they were going to give Anthony Joshua $50 million for the first fight. And now if he lost, win or lose, he would get $30 million on the next fight. And then they turned that fight down. And he said that he did have verification, or he saw verification from Al Heyman. So, that's neither here or there, but, that is what Tyson Fury said, and what else about that? He said that he said that Anthony Joshua's people turned that down because of money. He said it didn't have anything to do with the fighters. It was about the management. He explained that, Anthony Joshua, is a huge success in the UK. He's selling out 70, 80,000 people stadiums. So he's making money to fight guys less, threatening, like himself and Deontay Wilder. So the whole plan that he felt that Joshua was, they kept Joshua away from the Deontay Wilder or the Tyson Fury fight was because, why risk it if you're making all this money off the cash cow? The golden goose, I think how he explained it. And he did say something else interesting regarding Vladimir Klitschko. He was like, the best fight of my life was a 12-round snooze fest. Okay? It was a 12-round snooze fest. And he was like, look, I'm the first one to be honest. I'm a man of honor. It was a boring fight. I outboxed Vladimir Klitschko, and it was a boring fight. He was a guy that you had to worry about getting hit with the right hand. And that's true. It's because Vladimir is very powerful. You can ask Anthony Joshua that, and he avoided that right hand in that fight, and I like how he also made the analogy of Vladimir, of when he fought Vladimir, and he was able to avoid that right hand because he said that Deontay Wilder's a one-trick pony. And he said, well, if you think that if I didn't let Vladimir Klitschko, that also has knockout devastating power with his right hand with 65 KOs, mind you, why do you think, or what makes you think that I'm going to get hit with a guy that swings from way back here, and catches me? And he says, if he does catch me, I need to get knocked out because that shouldn't happen. In other words, you know what I'm saying? So that was good. It was a good podcast. But, he said that a lot of things, how he overcame his suicide, that was big because, I didn't really hear about that story with him in his car and he was trying to ram it into the bridge and, you know what I mean? And the voice told him to stop. What are you doing? Think about your kids, your family. Don't leave them. People will view you as weak or a coward, and he stopped, and then from that moment he knew he had to get help. So that actually is, it was good. It was a good experience. It was a good interview. He also said by setting goals, okay, setting goals will give him a purpose, like short or small, or, big or small goals, as long as you set goals to give yourself to, reward yourself, throughout life, which is good. What else? He mentioned Wilder and, Wilder's desire to be the best or to fight the best, and he felt sorry for Wilder, because Wilder has 40 fights and no one really knows who he is, and I would agree with that, with him in that aspect. A lot of times, I go hard on Wilder because I see a lot of stuff that I don't like, honestly. This is a channel, I could talk about anything anyway, but I do feel bad for Deontay because all those fights, no one really does know who he is. And I don't want to make this about Deontay Wilder, but no one really knows him. And the problem is his management. He wasn't promoted right. He was on free TV, and he really, he really got exposure, but it wasn't the right type of exposure. He fought guys that he had no business fighting. That's why he had so many wins. That's why he had so many knockouts. And it's sad, and I blame it solely on his his managers that held him back for so long. Now he's like a raging, wild, ravaging animal that's trying to fight anybody. But because of he has so many fights and not knowing the value of them, he wants a lot of huge demands that honestly, he's not really qualified to get. You know what I mean? And, but for you believing your management and you're believing what they tell you, of course you're going to believe what they tell you after a while. I mean, someone keeps telling you something, pretty soon you're going to start believing it. So people are saying, dude, you're the WBC heavyweight champion of the world, which is true. But you've only fought one guy, and that was Luis Ortiz. Now, back on track, Luis Ortiz, Tyson Fury talked about Luis Ortiz and congratulated Deontay Wilder on his win. But he said Luis Ortiz was 49 years old, and he's had hundreds of amateur fights, and he has about 20 plus professional fights. But he was on old legs, and this guy was suffering from high blood pressure medicine. He said he knew that from a good source, a very good source, that the doctors did not really want him to fight and didn't recommend for him to fight, but he needed the money. So he took the fight anyway, and he said he still almost beat Wilder, and he gave Ortiz every round except the rounds that Wilder knocked him down, which I would have done too, because if you look at that fight again, Wilder didn't really do anything. You know what I'm saying? He did a jab and a right hand, you know what I mean? Or he would do a double jab and a right hand, but it was mostly Ortiz controlling that fight until he got caught. So, I would agree with that. I'm not really sure about the 49 years old, but, it is known that Cuban fighters do not tell their correct age or their true age when they come into the professional rankings, because they've done amateur fighting so long that they have that skill and experience already set, because they're like, well, look, I'm getting paid for something I used to do for damn near for free. So, if I have to tell someone I'm 27, I'm really 36, you know what I mean? So be it. I want to get paid, because I've been cheated, for a long time. I feel that's why I defected. So I can understand that if that's the case, if that's what Ortiz did. But he gives Deontay Wilder for coming back in that fight, which is cool. What else? Yes, save the best for last. He did say something, Tyson Fury. He said Deontay Wilder was brave enough to take a fight with him being a classy mover, a boxer with hand speed, with good boxing IQ, and he did that. And he did that for the amount of money, for the similar amount of money than he would have fought anyone else. So that tells me right there that this particular fight, this fight purse, is probably similar, like he said. Tyson Fury said this. Those fight purses are similar to what he already got in the Ortiz fight. So no, it's not even something like $8, $9, $10 million. It's not at all. They're probably giving Deontay Wilder about $3 million maybe. He might get $4 million. But he said roughly the same amount of money. That's what he said. He could have fought any other easy fight just like he fought before Ortiz, right? But Tyson Fury said it himself. He said that he could have fought a different or an easier opponent for roughly the same money. The only difference is this is on pay-per-view, and this is what Deontay Wilder is anticipating to get his money on, because they're not paying him, and that's still sad. You know what I'm saying? But it also shows this: if you are getting $2, $3, or $4 million for this fight, you should really look at your management. You know what I mean? Your management is really still giving you a load of bullshit. Finkel and all these guys that he's connected with are giving him bullshit. If they only gave him 2.5 million and he called 15 or 12.5 slave wages, that's wrong. That's really wrong, because it's like either Deontay Wilder said that out of his own mouth, or he was coached that. No, those are slave wages, or no, that's unacceptable, and he kind of put it into his own terms. He paraphrased it the way he paraphrased it. Oh, them slave wages. He's like a slave master in a slave plantation. That type of stuff. You know what I mean? But that's what Tyson Fury said. So, you read it, and actually I'm gonna put an attachment and put the link below so you guys can check it out for yourselves, so you can dissect it. But that does raise a red flag when he says similar money. Because I'm thinking he was getting at least 7 or 8 million, career high payday. But he might not even be getting that. They might be trying to sell or bank to Deontay, hey, we're giving you this because we're gonna make so much money on the back end, Deontay. You know what I mean? And it'd be sad because who knows what it will do. If I'm a fighter, if I'm a prize fighter, I would at least want a guarantee. Damn, that's like me working at a server. Like, dude, someone's saying, hey, I'm going to give you $1,000 a week guarantee. Or, hey, you can make up to $1,000 getting tips. Hell no, I'm not doing that. Give me $1,000 flat so I'll know exactly what I'm in here doing and what I'm here for. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, that really pissed me off when that was like, similar amount of money. You know what I mean? That means he's getting about the same he's been getting. Maybe a little more. But a little more is unacceptable. But it is a reason, and you listen to me, guys, there's a reason why these fight purses from both of these fighters is so hush-hush. And Tyson Fury came out with just that information. He didn't really go into big detail, but he said enough to let you know what ballpark it's in. It ain't nowhere near what he was offered from Joshua. You know what I mean? They can say he turned down 50 million. He might have, but you can't sit there and ridicule a guy for turning down a whole bunch of money. But in retrospect, you turned down a whole bunch of guaranteed money yourself. So yeah, both of those guys are wrong. Because if Anthony Joshua said, yeah, if you give me $50 million, I'll sign the fight tomorrow. He said that. There's really no way around it. Now, you can debate if the money was real or not, but we heard what Tyson Fury said about it. But, we don't really know. However, we do know that Deontay Wilder turned down 12.5, then turned down 15 million, then turned around and said, I want the 15 million. Oh, well, he's fighting someone else now. You know what I mean? It's the thing about Deontay Wilder. If he believes he was really getting screwed over or getting ducked by AJ, he should have took that money to show everyone, look, I signed that contract. But the truth remains. You did not sign a contract, my boy. So you can't say, and you can't argue that much. You can go on interview after interview after interview, uplifting your profile. But at the end of the day, it's a good idea, though. He's going on this interview, he's going on that interview, and this video interview with this particular person, and it's working, But if he's getting roughly the same amount of money, what the hell? You know what I mean? And then it's pay-per-view. What if it does 250,000 pay-per-view buys? You know what I'm saying? That's still less than what they were offering you. And then you could have fought Joshua instead of the guy like Tyson Fury said, and I'm going to end with this, guys, because I know this is long. But Tyson Fury said it himself. He said, obviously, when I beat Deontay Wilder, I'm going to let him fight Joshua because that's the guy he wants to fight. He's going on and on about anyway. You know what I mean? Because he can't shut up about Joshua, and he's still promoting this fight. That's why he's supposed to be in front of these cameras. It isn't supposed to be because of Joshua. It's supposed to be because of the fighter you're fighting, Tyson Fury. So, we put all that in retrospect, man. I like how Tyson did it. He said, I ain't doing it for the goals, the medal, the glory. I just did it because I want to beat Deontay Wilder. You know what I mean? He said it before. He said, if I beat you, I'll give you the belt back and you can fight Joshua for the belt. It's big. But now I look at that. I want him to win more than I ever did now. You know what I mean? He's a guy with a purpose. He said, this is bigger than boxing. I have a purpose now. I set short and or big goals to give my life purpose. You know what I mean? Because he had it all and that still didn't make him happy. So, he glad that he went through this. So, man, it was a good podcast. And again, I'm going to send the link below so you guys can check it out. But this is the official Joe Rogan Tyson Fury recap. You guys tell me what you think about this interview. Of course, please subscribe. And you guys been Counterpunch. Peace.